Patreon people, welcome to the weekly update. As always, I like to start by saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is good because that way I don't forget to say thank you by the end. So, thank you. This week you are in for a treat. We have not just 1, 2, 3, but we have 4 songs from Rubber Soul that are going to be sent your way. They all have something in common too. I'll tell you about this at the end of our little update video. The audio you're going to get includes audio about the song The Word. This is a really fun song. It possibly might have kicked off the hippie movement. I say this a lot, that the Beatles, that their effect really was immeasurable. This is a good example. There weren't a whole lot of songs about love in a universal way before The Word came along. It's mostly John with a little bit of Paul. It's very sparsely worded, but extremely direct. There's a little bit of spirituality to it, yet it's still kind of vague. It was recorded really late in the Rubber Soul sessions. They had a whole bunch of songs recorded before they even wrote this. They knew they needed more, and they just kept moving it. On the session, Paul plays the piano, Ringo plays the drum, and John and George play the guitar. And then they added a ton of overdubs, which was Paul's really clever bass overdub. And then Ringo has 2 maraca overdubs. George Martin then plays a harmonium solo on it. And then after that, they did all the vocals, which are really interesting because John, Paul, and George did the harmony vocals together. Then they did another set of harmony vocals together, which is 6 singing Beatles. Then John did the lead vocal, and he double-tracked his second lead vocal. And then Paul did another background vocal, which is a total of 9 singing Beatles on the track. This is a really, really cool thing for a track from 1965. And as we talk about cool, we continue to talk about cool things because the Beatles have nothing but cool things. And the song Girl, which was the last one recorded for the Rubber Soul sessions, they started it late at night on the last day of sessions. Again, it was mostly John with a little bit of Paul. They were under a ton of pressure. All these elements remain the same throughout the Rubber Soul sessions. This is an interesting song because John Lennon is the victim in a love song, which is a rarity for him. He was definitely growing as a musician. The thing he was most proud of about this song is the deep breaths. After he sings the word girl, he inhales deeply with his mouth right against the microphone, and he double-tracked that. He was very proud of that. There are also 2 George guitars on this and a simple cymbal overdub from Ringo, which just added the nice touch. Also, what's kind of clever and a bit naughty on this is Paul and George, while singing the background vocals, sing the word tit a bunch of times. If you listen closely, you'll hear it. You'll giggle, I guarantee it. The third song you're going to be hearing is a Paul song. It's I'm Looking Through You, and it's all Paul, and it's a rarity for Paul as well, because usually Paul sings about happy and joyous types of songs, but in this case he's not happy. Well, Jane Asher was a very ambitious model and actress, and Paul thought maybe she should just stay home and be a bit more of an old-fashioned kind of girlfriend. Well, they disagreed about it. They had a fight, and through this, Paul wrote I'm Looking Through You. Now, they recorded a complete version of the song, and then they scrapped it, and they started again with version 2. On the US version of the track, it's slightly different because there's 2 different false starts at the beginning. Those are not on the UK album. This was the last song that they finished for the Rubber Soul album. On the final day, they worked way into the night. After they started and finished up Girl, they then put a couple finishing touches on I'm Looking Through You. The 4th song we're going to hear about this week is one of, if not the most popular Beatles song of all. It's certainly a contender, and it's In My Life, and it's again about universal love, things from the past. As they started getting challenged to write better songs, they kept trying to think of new and interesting ways to get inspiration. One of them, of course, was the things that they grew up with and the things that they love. Now, John had a poem called There Are Places I Remember, which mentioned some of the things in Liverpool, including Penny Lane. After he couldn't quite get this together as a poem, he put it away for a while and then eventually revived it as a song. This is one of the things that John and Paul disagree about. Who wrote what, we'll never know. He sings of things that he has lost, which probably included his mother, who had died when he was a teenager, and Stuart Sutcliffe, who was an early member of the band, who also died. This is very, very mature for relatively young musicians. He also is probably singing to the other 3 Beatles, because at this point in time, they could buy anything. They had all the money they wanted. They still needed to express their love to one another in an interesting way. And speaking of interesting, George Martin, again, does something fascinating for this. On this, they recorded it, and then they left an open spot for the solo. First, George Martin played a Hammond organ solo. You'll hear a little bit of that in the audio. And then what he did, he played on a piano. He played the solo at half speed, very, very slow, and then sped it up to 2 speed, which makes it sound like the way it does, and it fits in, which is just a fantastic element of the song. George Martin's value to the Beatles it just can't be understated. Also, as I said at the top of our show today, that there are 4 songs that we're going to hear about, and what's interesting about these 4 songs is none of them were ever performed live by the Beatles, which is really interesting that they had enough tracks that they could record them, put them out on an album, and that would be it. That is 4 songs from Rubber Soul. Expect them in your email /WeTransfers. Thank you. As always, the British Invasion section of Volume 3 of the book is slowly coming to an end. There's a lot of details. I've read this thing about 40 times. I hope you read it at least once when you get the chance to, hopefully sometime by the year 2525. Thank you so much as always. Have a great week. I'll talk to you in 7.